fact, you know that if you're going to be executed for being a criminal of some sort, that often the criminals' bodies then became available for public dissection. And at that point, physicians, artists, scientists, even curious people wanted to see this. They'd never seen, like, the human body was basically taboo. Prior to someone like Vesalius, you think of an artist like Leonardo da Vinci, he had to do all of his dissection illegally, basically. He was like illegally doing dissections on humans. And you could see you'd have this whole group of people studying from what he's doing. The house staff, the interns would have been watching on. And the questions. These are enlargements of sketches from his notebooks. As I said, he loved to draw, and he traveled with a notebook and a sketchbook and a camera, and he was always collecting information, like a scientist, like a collector. And these are sketches. And this is something he saw for the first time in Italy around 1900 and thought this would be an extremely useful thing. It turns out it's a blood pressure device, an early design for blood pressure device. And right away he recognized how valuable that would be in order to monitor patients when they're undergoing. And these two are enlargements also of drawings by Cushing. So he was quite talented and skilled, and took some classes, but that doesn't explain why he's this good. He just had enough. And then these pages, as well as this, are additional pages from Vesalius. And again, you can see Vesalius isn't just doing drawings of this is during the Renaissance, so you've got all these artists doing incredibly beautiful drawings and landscapes in the background, and here this guy is sort of laughing at his own immortality. It's kind of, all of that is just part of this whole thing. This is Dr. Louise Eisenhardt. Clearly she's strange in this group. Again, in the teens and 20s, it was very unusual for women to pursue medicine or science. Often if you did, you had to sort of skirt the edges of darkness to get away with it. But this young woman started as his secretary in 1915, when he got to the Brigham, and then decided to pursue science and medicine as her career, became a neuropathologist, and then worked with him on this collection until his death, and then continued to care for this beyond that. And then plates. So patient records, so X-ray visual field, that's how you would diagnose. Cushing would draw, he'd come out of surgery and do a sketch. Again, think of it almost like it's a lesson plan. So he can then teach the next generation. If a patient comes in, these are the symptoms, this is what they look like. All of that starts to educate people around these conditions. And the hands and the face became very characteristic things to record. There's tumors of the pituitary, which affects growth hormones. And so people with this condition called acromegalia, you often end up with extremely large hands, large jaw, rib cage. In fact, that skeleton behind there, you can look at later, is actually somebody who had this condition. And then more pages from the books, whether it was Persian or early anatomy, bloodletting. I mean, they used to bloodlet. They used to think that sometimes just removing a certain amount of blood would be good. This is a urine chart. At some point they thought, I think this is like from the 1470s or so, they would diagnose certain illnesses based on sort of fluids, different fluids in our body, and that was one of the ways they could. Herbals. I know these don't open all the way, unfortunately.